Joining us today is Mr. George Barks, who is running for California State Assembly. The exact district he's going to fill us in. But Mr. Barks, if you recognize the name, has been around. He's been a member of the Hermosa Beach City Council as well as mayor of Hermosa Beach. And without further ado, Mr. Barks, can you please fill us in a little bit on who you are, why you're running, and what you plan to do once you get to Sacramento?
Okay, Mr. Smith. First of all, it's Assembly District 66, and it involves the cities of El Segundo, the first city south of the Los Angeles International Airport, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, Redondo Beach, all of the Palos Verdes Peninsula, all of Torrance, all of Lomita, and Gardena. Those are the cities in the 66th Assembly District. And there's a population of nearly 500,000, 325,000 registered voters. And I'm a former councilman and mayor in the city of Hermosa Beach many years ago, though. We're talking about 1974 to 76. I was mayor in 1975, 80, and 85. I was the only conservative when I got elected to the city council. And I've been a Republican all my life. I support the conservative values of the Republican Party. And in this district, the incumbent Democrat has been in this district 8 years. First got elected in 2012. A Republican by the name of David Hadley, whose wife is currently on the Manhattan Beach City Council and running for re-election, defeated my opponent, Al Maritsucci, in 2014, but only by 700 votes. And in 2016, he ran for re-election, and Al Maritsucci defeated him. Since then, at least 2 Republicans have run against Mr. Maritsucci and have not done well. And the Republican Party couldn't find anybody to run against him here in 2022. So they asked me, George, would you please run for this office? And I looked back. The Republicans back in 1978 wanted me to run for this office when the Republicans had the majority in the state legislature. And I was raising 2 small children, and I had an auto repair shop in Hermosa Beach. And I said, no, I just want to serve my city. I'm running to make my city, a better city for all the residents. So when I was asked this time, I reflected back on that. Even though I'm a little bit older, I said, just a little. I said, you know what? Why not? And here I am. Because we need change in Sacramento.
Without a doubt, we need change in Sacramento. We need change in LA County, in the South Bay. And what's interesting, because I got here to Southern California in 2005 by way of Chicago, by way of a small town in Northern Illinois. I can only imagine, like literally in movies, Ford versus Ferrari and whatnot, when Southern California was kind of in its golden age and Republican and sane. I mean, a lot of our policies are just off the rails. Experiencing the change. First, tell me about that, and then what can you go and do about it? Because I'm sure there's a lot.
Well, good question, Tom. I have a history in the city of Hermosa Beach because, like I told you, I was the only conservative. And I have a good track record of bringing both sides together, reaching across the aisle and sitting down, listening to both sides and proposing compromise legislation. And that is what I plan to do when I'm elected to the state assembly, because we have this supermajority. 80 members of the state assembly, we only have 19 Republicans. 80 members of the state senate, and we only have 9 Republicans.
40 members of the Senate.
Pardon?
40 members of the Senate.
Oh, it is 40? I thought it was 80. Okay, I'm sorry. 40 members, and we only have 9 Republicans. So the supermajority is a one-party state, and it's not healthy. And I tell my Democratic friends, if the shoes were reversed and the Republicans had the supermajority, that isn't healthy either. We need a balance, because we have people with different viewpoints. And in order to benefit the residents of your district, of the entire state, we have to have legislation that is compromised. And that is not what is happening now with this current Democratic supermajority.
Yeah, and a far cry from it. So in your time in and out of public office, I'd imagine that you've built relationships, as you say, on both sides of the aisle. So do you, with some of the Democrats today, like some of the Democrat policies, I always believed myself to be a liberal conservative, a conservative liberal, kind of more in the center. But I've definitely been pushed to complete conservatism just because of the craziness. So with some of the do you have any relationships with Democrats that are like still making some kind of sense? I guess I'm trying to, it's just all the Democrat policies are just crazy. Like, you can't drive down the street and see the disaster that these policies have been generating. Because I sure can, and so can everybody I know.
Absolutely. So to answer your question, Tom, I have some good Democratic friends, right? And one, I have tried to get him, to support me. He served on the city council with me. He says, George, I've never voted for a Republican. And then he looked up into the sky and he says, my dad would be coming down now if I said that I'm going to support you. And it just, but other Democratic friends of mine, in fact, I think if he was honest, he'd tell me this too. They're not happy with these gas prices that are over the top. I mean, we are now coming out of a pandemic where people are hurting big time. Small businesses hurting big time. A lot of these small businesses, they have difficulty finding employees now. So we have inflation. We have a real negative impact economically on the people. And what we need to do is have common sense, pragmatic policies in this legislation to help the people. So I am going to propose that we waive the California gas tax for 1 year. And the California gas tax is like $1.16 above the federal tax. Okay.
Of course.
So my first order of business will be to form this bipartisan coalition, work with both sides of the aisle, and see if we can get it to pass the assembly, and then present it to the Senate, and have whoever the governor is, and it probably will be Governor Newsom again, to sign it. Because look, it's a matter of shifting the priorities. Right now, and as you know, Tom, the Democratic Party has the reputation over the years, and now it's worse than ever because it's moving so far to the left. Their reputation is tax and spend, tax and spend. Okay. But we can afford to waive this gas tax, California gas tax, because they have $101 billion surplus right now. But what do they want to do? Oh, they want to put it in this climate change bill. They want to put it in these electric cars.
Yeah, with the infrastructure that we're not ready for.
Right.
And the surplus is a bit of a mirage if you look long term, and pension obligations and whatnot, if I fully understand everything. But economic issues aside, what about crime and Gascon in LA County?
Well, I signed the petition to recall George Gascon, our district attorney. My opponent did not sign the petition. Soft on crime. I've never been soft on crime, and I will not be soft on crime. We have to enforce the laws and change some of these laws. What did the supermajority do? They passed this Proposition 47, where these people could go into a grocery store, into a pharmacy, and steal $900+ of merchandise, and the police can't do one thing about it.
Which is causing,
that's ridiculous.
Which is causing a mass exodus of business, big and small, from the state of California. So, in the long-term implications of that, there's no way that a reckoning for the state of California is not on the horizon at some point. The can be kicked down the road, probably for a bit, but eventually, the chickens are coming home. And with that in mind, do you have any small business taxation or even big business policy to try and keep the state from hemorrhaging all of the jobs and companies that have been leaving?
Yes, it's like you said, it's very complex, okay? But we have to change these policies to keep the businesses here, to keep the companies here. They're being taxed too much. This is why a lot of companies are moving to Nevada, to Texas, to Florida. It's just too much tax that the supermajority keep adding. And I'm going to look very carefully. I'm going to form a task force, and I'm going to have Democrats and Republicans to the right, to the left, and to the middle, and work to propose more pragmatic, common sense legislation to address this. I wish I could tell you specifically right at the moment what. I mean, look, too many regulations. That's another reason why. Too much, making it too difficult for businesses, especially large businesses, to do business in our state with all these regulations.
Well, Starbucks and
we
Walgreens
need regulations, but we don't need excessive. And I think they are excessive.
I'd agree. Starbucks and Walgreens both can't stop making headlines on stores that they're closing, storefronts that they're closing here in the state of California. And I cringe every time I watch a national news show where, especially in the political time period that we're in right now, a national news show where they comment, and the candidate comments and said, geez, we keep on heading down this path, we're going to be like California. And it's like, oh, gee, living here when that's being said is painful, to say the least. So thank you for throwing your hat in the ring and pursuing some common sense solutions to the countless problems that we have here in Southern California. But hey, we do have fantastic weather, right?
That's true. That's why our population keeps growing, right?
Well, I'd like to see the numbers lately, especially since the pandemic. I don't know. I don't know how many are actually coming.
Well,
as a
we're